Well, welcome, 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 welcome. Oh my goodness. My first day back after taking some time off, and I am super, super excited. I am super excited, and I come as I said. That's right. I come as I said. And before we get started, listen, you probably, if you have not been following me, and this is your first time of seeing me, my name is Christy Iwuchukwu, and we do this show every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's right, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Christy Iwuchukwu's Brilliance TV show. And this show is sponsored by Women's Coaching Association. So, what do we really do at Christy Iwuchukwu's Brilliance TV show, you may ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because in Christy Iwuchukwu's Brilliance TV show, this is the show that we spotlight today's top business leaders, entrepreneurs, unique and most successful individuals. Every week, I bring to you experts around the globe to share tips and strategies on how to help you up-level your personal life as well as your business. And today is no exception. That's right. And again, every Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is where we hang out. So I want you to share the love. Don't keep the information just for yourself. Go ahead and invite someone else and invite your tribe and bring your pen, paper, and get ready because my guest today is about to drop some nuggets. And you know, it's all about communication, it's all about visibility. You may absolutely know everything, know a lot, created your content, but if you don't know how to get it out there and have somebody else share in that content to be able to transform other people's life, guess what? It doesn't do you any good. So today, I want you to help me in welcoming my next guest. But before I introduce my next guest, I'm going to tell you who is my next guest. Well, my next guest is Dr. Chetachi Egwu, also known as Dr. Tachi. So, and she's coming to us from all the way from Florida. That's why she's coming to us all the way from Florida. And you're probably wondering, how do I know Dr. Tachi? Well, there's another show based called Biz Chick that she comes to every Friday. But let me tell you more about her. Dr. Tachi is a media professor, and she's been teaching, get this, she's been teaching public speaking for 19 years. That's right. She's also a journalist and a filmmaker. She has her own show as well. And I am going to, rather than having me introduce her and say all the goody things, it's going to come from her. So the next voice that you're going to hear will be that of Dr. Chetachi Egwu. Dr. Egwu, welcome and welcome to my show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Okay, let's my goodness. Now, for some of you, you may be looking at the last name, and yes, we are from the same states, or should I say from the same country, I should say. But Dr. Tachi was born and raised here in the United States, while I was born and raised in Nigeria. So please introduce yourself. Who is Dr. Tachi?
Wow, you already did such a great job. But as you mentioned, I am a media professor, a filmmaker, a media content producer. I'm also a journalist. I am the host of a couple of shows, plus a podcast. And I also direct. So I'm in the process now of directing 2 television projects that have not come to fruition yet, but they're getting there. So.
Oh, awesome. Listen, it's going to be an awesome show today. So if you are hanging out with us, make sure you have paper and something to write with, because I am going to ask all the questions that you have asked me to ask today. So everybody is online thanks to pandemic. most businesses are now online. And I work with women to really help them create compelling signature talk. You know, signature talk, I call it a verbal business card. Is that thing that you go back over and over again that allow people to get to know you so that they can share in your content. But because of pandemic, we are now everything is online. And one of the challenges as an entrepreneur, one of the challenges is really being able to put yourself out there. Now, one of the challenges that I find when I work with my clients is really that visibility. They are afraid to put them out there. And
Right.
what can you share with us as how we can leverage this online with media?
Excellent question. I think the simplest answer is you just have to do it. There is no perfect way or perfect time. And usually, when I'm teaching people about using live streaming and social media in general, the bottom line is to start where you are. So I think sometimes people get so caught up on, I don't have the perfect camera, I don't have the right computer, my phone is too old, and all of those things. So all of that matters. Absolutely. Equipment matters. But what matters more is your know-how, the energy you put into it, and the fact that you just start, because the fact that you are starting puts you miles ahead of so many other people. So I think I would say, in terms of leveraging, is just start. See what you have. See what your skill set is already, and where you fill in the gaps in terms of the knowledge, because it's like there could be other people out there doing the same or similar to what you want to talk about, but they're not going to do it in exactly the same way. And the best, I always tell people also, before I ever started live streaming, and it's been like about since 2012, I've been using live stream. But when it became really popular with Meerkat in 2015, I didn't go live right away. I waited to see what people were streaming about and where my knowledge could fill in the gaps in that space that people weren't streaming about. So I say that as well, to sit back, watch and wait, see what's not being done, and maybe that can become your niche in terms of taking advantage of all of this.
You know what? You said it right because I remember starting out before I started filming. I didn't even know it's a long journey for me. I didn't even know that I would be on internet streaming and talking to somebody I never met before. 'Cause I was that person. You couldn't get me to even take pictures, let alone comment on Facebook that the whole
Right.
world is going to be watching, right? And I remember
Right.
first video ever that I had recorded a couple of times and had the nerve to put it online. And when I put it, I had to make sure it was at night, right? So nobody will be watching me. And I had the audacity to delete the first video and then put the second video. I was about to delete the second video, and I said to myself, well, the second video was actually worse than the first one. What what was I thinking? I decided to upload that video. Can I just tell you that video was the reason I'm talking to you? Because I
Wow.
realized that there were other people that were watching that imperfect video, and it allows someone else to get up and do her very first video. So I say that to say what you said is absolutely right. The only way that you can get started on doing something is just to get started. It's absolutely
Right.
started and grow your wing on the way. So, having said that, where do you see streaming online and marketing as business people, entrepreneurs? Where do you see that going? We're now in pandemic.
Mhm.
We don't know how long it will be. Where do you see that going?
This is it. I I keep looking at people who don't believe that this is the future, or who think, oh, things are going to go back to normal, quote, or the way things were before. You're fooling yourself. For the foreseeable future, and for the future we don't see, this is really where it is. So I see more emphasis and attention being placed on live streaming. So, live streaming was a thing before, but it really became huge because of the pandemic. If you look at all of the different companies that have live streaming platforms and live streaming software, I would venture to say that they had a 60% increase in use because of this pandemic. People who had a message and wanted to do a show maybe, but didn't do it before because of time or whatever. Well, now you may be off of work or away from the office, so you may have the time. And then now you have something to say and you have a platform. So I think it's only going to grow and increase. That's where I see it going.
Yeah, I used to do events,
Okay.
conferences, and one of the benefits that I think that this provides is the being able to give somebody the same transformation. And I know we love to see each other, but you can still get the same transformation by using several online platforms. And so cutting off the overhead is a big thing that I see with this pandemic. And like you
Yes.
said, we don't know how long this will be. This has really for now become our new normal. So the best
Yes.
thing is really to just whatever you can do to embrace it. And I know people worry so much about not being able to get online. I'm fat. My
Exactly.
chin, I have double chin. I have my hair is not done. I'm getting fat, and so on and so forth. They can talk about it till whenever, but the truth of the matter is, if you can't get online, I mean, doing your business, I don't know how faithful and how profitable that will going to be. So this is that new normal. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
And in your industry, media, how
Hmm.
can we, you hear about media kits, you hear about people using other platforms more than instead of just internet, talking
Right.
about getting on televisions to get interviewed. And how does somebody who doesn't know anything about it, let alone trying to find out what how would that help me scale my business? What can you share with us?
So if you don't know anything about it, well, I almost can't say there's an excuse. There is no excuse. There is too much information out there now about this whole realm, whether it's live streaming, whether it's social media, that there's no excuse not to know. As long as you have access to something called Google or some way to look it up, there's no excuse not to know. So, all right, for example, for those of you out there that may have, that are using Facebook, for example, you're watching us on Facebook now, that means you have a Facebook account. Do you know how many groups there are dedicated to social media, to live streaming, to marketing, there are literally thousands of groups on Facebook that are people wanting to share information to help you scale things. There are all sorts of business groups as well. So that's the first thing, to start with research and start with information. Then don't just sit back in the groups and do nothing. Participate in the discussions, offer information, right? Social media is a give and take. So participate in the discussions, offer information, make connections with people. You mentioned the show that that I'm on Fridays. I met them through social media, through live streaming. I did not know them in person. And so as a result of making connections and always commenting on the streams, watching them, I became a regular part of what they do. So know that it's reciprocal, that it's give and take, and that when you have something of value to offer people, notice. You may think people aren't watching, but people always notice when you have things of value to offer, and then they want to connect and work with you. And then once you have that connection, it becomes very easy for the most part to get information from them as well. So I would say start there. And then you could just so for example, if you're a big Instagram person, go on Instagram, use the hashtags, put in the hashtag for what it is that you're looking for, and start to, look at what people are doing, make comments. That's a great way to start to make connections.
Well. There's people that are brand new. Talking about Instagram, talking about all the social medias that we have. For somebody
Mhm.
who is not versatile, who is brand new to this online business, do you find that there's some certain ones that are better than the other ones in terms of doing your business or promoting yourselves? Whether we're talking about LinkedIn, whether we're talking about Facebook, whether we're talking about Instagram, Pinterest, or what is the difference? And what does it depend on?
Excellent question. So there are a number of differences with all the platforms, namely the purpose and the audience. So for example, Facebook, even though they want to get away from this per se, it really is people you already know. This is family and friends. This is how they started. So although there are business pages, right? Probably with your business page, once you start that, the people that you share it out to are going to be family and friends initially, and then it can grow and you can kind of scale from there. So think about if you already have a large network of people that you know in terms of family and friends, that could be possible customers, patrons, clients, or point people in that direction, then Facebook may be a good way for you to go. Instagram, you don't necessarily have to know folks on Instagram to be able to do things. It's made to build networks rather than already having a network there. You can build your network on Instagram. LinkedIn, everybody thinks about it for business, and yes, it is, but it's growing. They're trying to get away from being just for business. And, it goes on. So the answer to your question is it really depends on where your audience is. So if you know your audience is young or your customer is young, they may be lower end of millennials, they may be Gen Z, an upcoming Gen Alpha, then maybe you may say, well, you know what? TikTok is a place for me to be. Instagram is the place for me to be. Even though you don't hear a lot of people talking about Snapchat, Snapchat has a dedicated audience and a dedicated audience of users. If that's where your audience is, then that's where you create content. So basically, wherever your audience lives is where you're going to create content. But that doesn't mean, forget about the rest. I always say try it, because you may discover that people connect with you there, even though this is supposed to be a young platform or whatever. You may get audience members that connect with you there. So try it. And if you see it's not really working that well for you, then focus your energy on the platforms that are working for you. So it's a trial and error, basically.
It's a trial and error. So basically, as far as knowing where your audience is
Mhm.
not really a definite thing in terms of, okay, I think how do I determine where my audience is the question.
You have to try. You're right. You have to try. So again, it comes with knowing what it is what you're doing. So as I gave the example of, if I know I have a product that works well for a younger audience, all right, what are the platforms that have a majority of younger audiences where I can connect with them? Those are the platforms that you need to do. So it's going back to research. And there's a lot of the research out there. We already know if you're skewing your content or skewing your product or marketing towards a younger audience, that looking at Instagram is a big way to go. Facebook, maybe not so much, but they could be there as well. But it comes with doing the research of what are the demographics of the people that are using this particular platform. Will my product, service, etc., content fit in within this particular platform? And then just trying. There's no magic potion. And I think sometimes people, there are a couple of different types of people. They think, all right, well, they've heard, oh, there are people that make millions via social media. I'm going to do this tomorrow too. Not necessarily. Let's be realistic about it. It takes a while to build, and that's the thing. So you have to also give it time. So if you don't know where your audience is, do the research first to know what your product, service, or content is about and who it's geared for. You have to know that first. Then look at the platforms that work primarily with those specific audiences. Secondarily, look at other platforms that may not be specific to that audience, but they have grandchildren that may be in this demographic, and they may tell their grandchildren about it, or whatever the case may be, right? So you have to do the research to know where your audience is, then try it. and see how well you, and then trying it is not just putting your stuff online and waiting for people to come to you. Again, you have to be interactive. You have to interact.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. I want to acknowledge the individuals that are joining us. Thank you, Akisha. Thank you so much for joining us, Stephen, Dr. Four, and thank you all for joining us. Please go ahead and put your comment in the comment section. Put your question in the comment section. Anything that, as you probably can see from our topic today, anything that has to do with media, just go ahead and put your question or comment in the comment section. I'll get back to you. Thank you so much. So, returning to our ongoing so let me see. One of the challenges that entrepreneurs face these days is really visibility. Really communicating with one another. When I say communicating, I'm talking about communication in general, because there's this issue of, and it is constant, and I can tell from my own journey, for some of you that are following me, and it's for me, the greatest thing that really was a bottleneck, so I thought, but I realized that what you thought was a challenge really, for me, became a conversational piece, right? And for me, it was English as a second language. I was so uncomfortable because having to repeat myself so many times at that time, I was so uncomfortable. If somebody was to ask me, say it again, I didn't understand. What do you mean? And as a result of that, I shrunk. I never really want to be visible. That was part of my challenges. But I know better now that what I thought was my weakness became, or is, and has always been my greatest up level. So, what can you share, and what has been your experience? And I know you are in your film industry, you are in media, and you've been teaching public speaking for 19 years. So you've been in the industry for quite a while. What has been your experience as to why people will have comments, and why people will have content, and why people have so much to say, so much to do to offer help to other people, and yet the fear of getting up to speak becomes a challenge?
It's interesting that you say that. So like you said, I've been teaching public speaking for 19 years. I'm a media professor, but the first classes I ever started teaching were public speaking. And I've been doing that since. And, you know, I think one of the biggest fears, if you look at a list of the biggest fears, public speaking is one of them. And there are a few reasons for that. The fear of being judged, right? The fear of this imposter syndrome of, I'm here and I think I know what I'm saying, but somebody else may come and say you don't know what you're saying. So, and not feeling like you belong in that space, right? So, also, you can learn fear. I don't know if people know this, but that's one of the things that I teach, that you can actually learn to be fearful of these things. So if you have somebody that was close to you that is afraid of public speaking, and you see that growing up, you can learn to be afraid of speaking in public and expressing yourself as well, because you've been exposed to that. So you can learn fear. Absolutely. You see, you know, certain people that are fearless, especially kids that are fearless, they'll attempt to jump off something really high because they don't have that fear, but they learn that, okay, well, this can be dangerous. And then they learn to have a fear of it, right? Now that's a healthy fear to have, because you don't want to get hurt, for that type of thing, if there's such a thing as a healthy fear. But, in terms of public speaking, it works the same way. In terms of making presentations, it works the same way. So those are a couple of reasons why people wouldn't want to be there. But I think there are so many people sometimes that infuse, if you will, or inoculate us with the thoughts that you don't deserve to be where you are, or you shouldn't be speaking about XYZ, or what gives you the right to be speaking about XYZ, right? And I think that's a fear I think that imposter syndrome thing is a huge thing. And so in terms of getting over it, again, part of it is you just have to do it. You have to block out the noise. You need to surround yourself with people that are affirming and uplifting and real. Okay, you don't want to surround yourself with a bunch of idiots who are just like, oh, you're good, you're so, and you're not, right? You need people that are real, but you need people that are affirming around you. There was what's that saying that if you hang around with chickens, you can't soar with the eagles. So you also have to watch the company you keep in terms of those things as well.
You know, you talk about if you grow up in an environment where someone is speaking very well, and that may actually incite the fear itself. And I think the same thing happens to that's basically comparing yourself to other people, which is
Yeah.
a big thing. Unfortunately, the people you compare yourself to, really, for the most part, like you said, they do better than you. So here you are feeling sorry that you can't even open up because you're busy watching other people. Let me acknowledge the individuals on the line. Kathy, Blaze, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you all. Please go ahead and put your comment on the comment section, and I'll get back to you at the end and watch it. So, on that route, every time that, do you find that your industry,
Mm-hmm.
do you find that it's easier for a man to be visible than it is for women? What are your thoughts?
That is so poignant, so excellent. I think society is set up in such a way that men get the shine for whatever it is they do. And women have been taught to apologize for taking up space. So we'll do things like, oh, I just wanted to say. Oh, well, I don't know if we are constantly apologizing for being there. And one thing that you can't do is apologize. This is whether you're a woman, if you're a person of color, you just have to, you have to do it. So absolutely, I think that society is set up in such a way that it has been easier for men to do things, but also you can only be enslaved as long as you are complicit in your enslavement. So you can't sit and wait for them to give you permission. One thing that I do is I go to an awful lot of conferences. I love going to conferences and I love live streaming them. So there are a couple of conferences that I go to that are like media conferences, news media, and they're made for general managers of television stations, etc. But I'm like, well, I teach media. Can't I be there? They're like, oh, sure. But I think for the longest time, and it's not just women professors or whatever, but I think the professoriate in general, we don't. We may not see where we fit in that. And if it says, oh, this is for general managers or whatever, we don't go. So generally, when I go to those things, I'm generally the only woman of color. I may be the only Black person. And what I do is I don't care. I go and sit at the table. I'm like, oh, I wasn't supposed to sit here. Oh, well. I sit down first and apologize later. So I think you have to, people also respect when you just sit down. You know how people say to know your place? When it comes to that, don't know your place. Go outside of your place. Break outside of the box. Sit down at the table or build your own table.
I love build your own table because you're absolutely right. Because oftentimes we don't even give ourselves permission to try something, to try being there and have somebody ask you to leave, right? And oftentimes I have a friend, or I used to have a friend, that it doesn't really matter. Even if it doesn't matter what it says, she's going there and she's going to be there. And no one has ever asked her, according to her, no one has ever asked her to leave, right? But if you're not that bold, if you haven't given yourself permission to try it, for the most part, that you will know whether you'll be accepted or not accepted. Right? I mean, even if you're not accepted in that environment, they'll give you the reason why. Right. Yeah. So absolutely. Again, I want to acknowledge everybody. Thank you for joining us. And please go ahead and put your comment in the comment section, and I will be sure to come back later and entertain you. So, and so let's talk about women.
Yeah.
Let's talk about women. And by the way, we didn't call each other. We didn't know we were wearing the same color until
No.
we didn't know we were wearing the same color until we showed up. That's what's so funny. I said to her, "Should I go and change my?" And I said,
No,
"Man,
I love it. I love it. Well, that just shows we're on the same wavelength.
absolutely, absolutely." Let's talk about women. Let's talk about some of the statistics that I've been reading in terms of women being one of the greatest numbers in starting a business, and yet in doing so, they are the ones for the most part not to do well in business or drop out or not make a lot. Do you have any comment in relation to that?
Yeah, I think this is where it really takes a village, that old saying. I think that sometimes there is a lack of support for whether it's women in business, women in media, etc., and there needs to be more support. Number one, we're not each other's competition, and I think we need to realize that. Maybe in some cases, when it comes to business, yeah, you've got two competing companies, but as individuals, we're not each other's competition. So if you are a woman that's in business, and for example, you've been in business for a long time, or you have a business that is scaling very well, and you've been able to do that using live streaming, using social media, for goodness sake, share the information. I think part of the problem is sometimes we're all, as humans, we're so afraid of somebody taking our place, especially in a society like the US. Both of us, we're from societies that tend to be collectivist, where the good of the community supersedes the good of the individual. Well, you're here in the US, and it's really about competition, survival of the fittest. It's about the individual, for the most part. That's a blanket statement, but for the most part. So I think we have to get into a collective mindset and know that when one succeeds, that means more opportunities for the rest of us. So if you have information that's going to help, offer it. Mentor people. I think that's the huge thing. Women mentoring other women in terms of business. Mentorship is key. And then taking that mentorship also, to the collegiate level, with a lot of young people that may be in college and before college, like high school. Make sure you're mentoring young girls and young women to enter the business space, to enter the media space, or whatever space it is that they're trying to get into. The mentorship makes a huge thing. So I think that's how we can start to make a difference, by seeing ourselves as a collective rather than individuals, and then really employing a mentorship spirit and mindset, and going back and mentoring other women, regardless of age, to be honest.
Well, I totally agree with you, because there's nothing like mentorship. I have gained so much from other people, men and women, mentoring me in my journey. And I don't think that I don't think that I would do without mentorship or coaching. And oftentimes, I think, especially if you're starting out, you're testing the water. You're trying to do it all by yourself. And what happens is that you get overwhelmed. You get so confused, because you are this online stuff, and you'll be buried looking on YouTube University, looking at Google University, and by the time you're so overwhelmed. But if you have the permission, if you give yourself permission, really, to reach out to someone else, to mentor you, to be coached, to be trained by somebody else, it makes things a lot easier. And that's what I didn't learn when I first started. I was just tasting the water. But in doing so, yes, I learned what not to do when I coach my clients now. But boy, it would have been better if I didn't have to go through that. Through that. But absolutely, that is what I see. So thank you for joining us, Jackie. And Kathy Blake, thanks for hanging in there. Stephen, thanks for joining us. And Maria, Dr. Mariana, who I think had to go. So again, thank you for joining us. And please be sure to leave your comments in the comment section. I will come back, I promise you, and I'll entertain to those comments and question at the end. So right now, where are we going in terms of visibility as I talk? Because that still is a big thing. But when I say where are we going this time, I'm saying, can I function without it? Can I scale my business without it? Would it work without it? And yeah, can I do it without it? Can I survive in this river without it?
Without social media, you mean? Without live streaming?
Without everything. Yes. Can I survive?
Okay. Maybe you can. Maybe I'm thinking of an example of examples now. Like I'm also social media strategist / manager. So I work now with real estate a lot. I mean, real estate has really, for the most part, been solidly what I've been doing in terms of social media. So yeah, there are a lot of them and realtors still are not hugely on board with, they're not leveraging social media and video, especially like they could. They're not. They could do much more with it. But real estate is a very traditional profession where there's a lot of word of mouth. There's a lot of, well, I sold this home to your father, and now you're coming to me as a client. So real estate is based off of relationships. Okay. So maybe you can, but think about how much larger the realm of your relationships could be if you included everyone in the world as your customer, as opposed to the people that you have direct contact with, right? That's one. B, if you are only interested in being in business for for today, then that's fine. But the business of tomorrow takes live streaming, social media, video, all of that into account. So you are future-proofing your business when you do things like that, when you include that as part of your repertoire. Now, by and large, of course, relationships are huge, and the ones that you have face-to-face are very important. But think about how much more exposure you could get, how much more leverage you can get if you think globally and include social media in what you do. So can you? Yes. Should you? No.
Yeah. So what would you say would be the best way to attract clients right now? I know that you are a social media content strategist. So
yeah.
What would you say?
So I think, it goes back to the question that you asked me before, like the best platform. I think it depends. There are different ways. It depends on who you're trying to attract, because different audiences have different needs, right? Have different needs met. We go back, let me get my professor's hat on, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the things in rank order that we deem important. If you are a Gen Z right now, maybe your self-actualization need is bigger than your safety need, right? If you are a baby boomer, maybe your safety net need or whatever is bigger than the other needs on the list. So I think it depends on who you are and where you are, right, in your journey in terms of that. So there's no one easy answer, because it really depends. So again, going back and doing the research, how do you attract the right customers? How do you scale in the right way? It's going back and doing the research, and then it's hugely trial and error. That is nothing that can be taught to you in a business school. I don't care how many degrees you have to try something in order to know whether or not it will work. And it may not work, and that's okay. That's how you learn. I think you learn more lessons through, I wouldn't call it failure, but challenges, than you do when things go right for you all the time, because that's how you learn how to solve problems, how to think outside of the box, what will work, what not to do next time, how you can tweak things so that it works better, how to make this thing that you made work for audiences X, Y, and Z, etc. So hopefully that answered your question. But the thing is, there's no easy answer. You've got to do the research, and then you have to try and see what works.
The key is you have to try, because if you never try, you won't know whether it's going to work. On that note, you hear so much about media release, press release, media kit. How does that help someone as far as visibility and entrepreneur?
Did you say press release or media release?
Yes, press release.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is very helpful. That is a tool of PR, obviously, to let people know that you have something coming. Okay. Again, in media, they're always the media publicists are always doing press releases in terms of there's a new show coming, or this is happening. So it's a way of letting people know about the big things you have happening with your company, with your business, etc. It's very pointed. And the point of the press release, obviously, is to get your message out there and have it picked up by different media outlets. So you have a press release, and if you have a publicist or you have PR people working with you, they'll send it out to these different media outlets. If you don't, you can do it yourself, right? So you send out these things. So it's funny, everything you ask, it's awesome, because it feels like I've done everything. So even though I have not been like really as a job, I haven't worked as a PR person, but I belong to an organization where I happen to be the PR public relations officer. And I kind of, picked up along the way the things to do in order to be effective in that. Now, I'm not a PR person, again, but you learn by research and watching and doing how to do that. And that's where you learn, okay, you have your list of all these media outlets that are amenable to, what your message will be. You have your press release, and you have their templates, obviously, for press releases that you can use each time you have something like a product release or whatever going out, and you send it out to the publications that it would make sense for, right? And that's also how you get picked up for interviews, right? Like something like this, getting interviewed, getting more attention to your product, service, content, etc. So that's what the press release is for, and that's what it does. And it can be very helpful, and you can do it yourself, but somebody who obviously is paid to do it will have network and strategies that will help you push it further than if you did it yourself, if you don't know what to do.
All right. Thank you so much. So
sure.
As we come to the close, I thank you so much. As we come to the close, what can you share with our audience as far as what are the tips or strategies that you have when we talk about putting ourselves out there, when we're talking about what we do, when we talk about transforming lives and sharing what we know so that other people can partake in it? What are the best tips that you can give us in terms of being able to reach more people and increase your impact?
So again, we'll go back to start where you are. You can't get anywhere if you don't start. Don't be afraid of starting with what you have. If for example, we're talking about live streaming and starting to get scale that. Start with what you have. Start with your little iPhone 6. Start with propping your phone up on books. Whatever it is you have to do, start, but then respect your audience enough to get better and to learn and to improve what you have. Don't think that, whatever I do, my audience will be, with me. I see that sometimes, no disrespect to celebrities, but celebrities, that is not their forte. Often the technical part of it. So you see them and the picture is dark or the picture looks terrible, but they're able to go with it for a little while because of who they are. But then you need to respect your audience enough to get better and to do it. So that's one thing. Number two, form your networks, right? Make sure that you're forming networks, whether it's joining a lot of these Facebook groups, joining groups, in person when outside opens up again, all of these things. Make sure that you have a net that is spread far, but that you are keenly aware of who's in that network. Don't just spread it far just so you can have people. Make sure that those are quality connections that you have. I think it's very important to have that. Number three, in terms of, making carrying this on and making sure that it grows, you've got to mentor. You have got to put yourself out there to be part of the solution, to be part of other people's networks, as other women, other people of color, in our case, whatever the case may be. It is critical that you become part of the chain in educating the next generation of whoever. By next generation, I don't just mean young people. I mean whoever is entering into the field. You need to mentor them and give them the charge to mentor other people. So I think those are three things that I think. Oh, and then also break down doors and don't apologize. That's for other people. You sit down at the table, or and Tyler Perry said this, build your own table, make your own opportunities. Don't wait to be invited because boo-boo, they will not invite you. So sometimes you just have to make your own opportunities and make your own party.
I said, grab a chair and sit and have somebody ask you to leave. Period.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, oh, was I not supposed to sit here? Yeah, that's what you have to do. Oh, sorry.
So let me go back to see if can you read the comments on your side?
Yeah, I am.
My glasses sometimes. Oh, okay. Reading from Jackie. Jackie said that build your build your own table. Build your own table. That's what she wanted to say. Thanks for Jackie. And Stephen says, I can't go ahead and read that, Tachi, if you don't mind.
All right, on Facebook?
Yeah, Facebook. Can you read?
Yeah, I'm looking.
Stephen.
Oh, okay. Stefan, says, Tachi, for the realer. I always say real estate companies and realtors in general could use social so much better. And Stefan is an amazing social media strategist, so he absolutely knows that. Yes. And he put ER in parentheses. So that's another thing I will say. Number 5. To be more That is a saying that I say that came from my show MediaScope. And basically on the other side of all of this pandemic, how very dare you not come out a better, smarter, better, nicer, worldlier, right, person than you were coming into this, because there are so many free courses and opportunities to improve yourself. So one day I said, damn it, just be more And so that has become our saying, to add ER to anything. And that just means to upscale or to level up, basically.
I totally agree. So Jackie says, that's right. Trial and error is a step to moving forward. Absolutely, Jackie. And Janet's comment says, hello, ladies. Great information and the strategies. Thanks for joining us, Janet. And Jackie, make your own party. Ooh, I like that. Make your own party and build your own table. That's right. Grab that chair and sit on the table. Don't wait to be invited, because if you keep waiting to be invited, you may never get invited at all. So grab the chair and find that table and sit on the table. So thank you so much. And as we close, do you have any closing comments, or where do you want us to follow you and partake in what you have?
Absolutely. So I'll make sure that I put all of this in the comments on Facebook for anybody who's interested. I have a couple of things. First of all, I love Instagram. So you can find me at dr_Tachi. So Dr_Tachi on Instagram. I have a show every Wednesday called MediaScope where we talk about the latest in media tech and pop culture. And it's on a bunch of different platforms: Periscope, Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, also WJMSradio.com at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 3 p.m. Pacific. I also do another show called And We're Live with my producer from MediaScope, and that's where we teach people to use video and live streaming for business and beyond. And that is every other Thursday. We do that on the same platforms. And I am one half of the TV Twins on the podcast called TV Channeling. That's where we do TV reviews and we talk about TV, film, and entertainment news. And again, as you know, on Fridays, I am often with the Biz Chicks for the Tech Divas, where we talk social media, at tech, and media. So.
Thank you so much. So everybody, she's going to drop her information so you can follow her and partake in other things that she is offering. So Dr. Tachi, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And we're going to keep connecting. And audience, I don't see any other comments or any other question. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Remember that we do this every Monday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And this show is sponsored by Women's Coaching Association. To find out more about Women's Coaching Association, please go on over to Women's with an S, womenscoachingassociation.com, and click on the membership info, and you will find all the perks of becoming a member today. And I hope you join us. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll do it again next Monday. Bye, everybody. Bye, Dr. Tachi.
Bye. Thank you.